In past years, it's been a recent inclusion, the story of the year. And for me, I think it's always been about the picture of the year. But as we move forward and photojournalism, people are taking a deeper look at things. So what you're getting is stories that are really in-depth and done over a period of time. And I think that needs to be rewarded.
I just hear about this because
pictures tell stories, and some stories are complex and subtle and require a set of pictures to be able to really absorb that situation and understand what the photographer's interpretation and understanding of that situation is.
As a judge, I was looking for visual storytelling, your decisions around how intimate and close you become, but also how far you step back to allow the viewer to make their own kind of decisions, but also just how you bring me in and make me part of that story.
This interaction is a moment, this is really nice.
So to have a story of the year is validating the photographer as being a person capable of digging deeper.
I felt there were a number of very interesting stories that had powerful new ways of seeing.
Each picture needed to give me more and more information, one after the other, so I got the whole picture, not just a snippet of it. So I think that was an important part for the stories that were selected.
For me, the story of the year has to be wonderful, something excellent.
This one comes closest to having sort of some intimacy, but...
And those opposed?
The story shows us youth protests that took place within Hong Kong, and those were very significant protests because the way in which they were organized was extremely professional. But you're looking at people that are doing this for the first time.
We are seeing a new type of youth on this planet, youth who are determined to write their future.
In this story, what I think made it was the editing by the photographer to include a specific look at the students that were involved in the protests. So for me, when we were looking at this particular story about Hong Kong, it was that small element that sort of drove that story a little bit further.
There's an image in that story that always stays with me, which has 4 or 5 schoolgirls in their school uniforms and coming out to protest. And that for me had so much symbolism, because you expect people in school uniforms to be within the corridors of their schools, not out on the street. But it's so powerful.
Youth that are determined to confront very powerful and dangerous establishment and governments. This particular story encapsulates that in each and every single frame.
It's about a plane crash in Ethiopia where there was an aspersion that was cast upon the crew members, thinking that, oh, it's a flight from a particular part of the world and that the flight staff is not experienced enough. And then when enough investigation was done, they found out that it's one of the best trained fleets in the aviation industry.
It said a lot about the perception that still continues around how Africa is perceived. This particular project was a great platform to confront stereotypes of Africa.
And I thought it was an extraordinarily powerfully and considerately done story that shares with us what the photographer saw in the aftermath of the crash of the Boeing jet that went down outside of Addis Ababa.
For me, the story is really about grief. There is an image that I think collectively as a jury we felt was very, very powerful.
For me, besides the deaths, the sorrow, the grieving, this project highlighted a very important issue to the rest of the world, that Africa is developing. Africa is not what people have known for many years and have their own perception, interpretation. Africa is part of the world.
So the story is a long-term project that was worked on over a number of years by a photographer who had tremendous access. Photographing in Algeria right now is extremely difficult.
It's a photographer that lives there and tries to tell the story of the young people, but not only right now, but for several years. He tries to be near the neighborhoods of the people, how they live, the daily life, but also show the protest, and that's what I like.
The fact that you see so many people, and all these people are young men, creates a kind of anxiety.
Each photograph is well composed. Storytelling elements are very varied. There's a lot of general scenes, there's a lot of very intimate scenes in subjects' homes.
I think the level of commitment that the photographer showed and connection and intimacy with the people came through.
For me, this story is really powerful because you feel you are there. The photographer made something to put you inside this country.
We felt that the quality of the work itself, photographically, was quite flawless.